Hey everybody, welcome to comics class. My name is Brandon Pallas and I'm here to teach you everything I know about drawing comics. Right now we're covering composition. Last week not last week, I guess it was last week. I'm not doing these weekly exactly, but in any case, last time we covered some composition basics, and today I'm going to just throw down some compositions for you and talk through them so we can learn to start putting some of this stuff into practice. So here we go. All right, I'm going to start, as always, with putting down some picture planes, just some frames. I'll do some different sizes, different shapes, because, that's how, compositions can be different sizes, different shapes, different proportions, different aspect ratios, whatever you call them. So we'll work through a bunch of that stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the same basic subject. It's going to be, we're going to have a cliff or a mountain, and a castle and a figure. And we're just going to put them together in different ways and use different kinds of compositions and see what works and what doesn't. I'm going to try to do good compositions. I'm going to try to do some bad compositions. So hopefully we can, compare and contrast. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's say for this one, let's maybe put a cliff here, figure here. These are gonna be very simple drawings. We're just gonna block them in very simply, and then maybe back here, castle. Does that look like a castle? Doesn't matter. Okay. And let's talk about the principles at work here. I didn't mention last time, I don't think. There's something called the rule of thirds. Let's go ahead and make another picture plane here. If we divide this into thirds, both vertically and horizontally, this gives us a nice kind of framework to design our picture. We often want to put, kind of like here, we want to put focal points on the points right there where those lines intersect. We often want to, let's see, the castle is kind of, I guess I could have just done this right here. And as we, this isn't exactly on the rule of thirds, but it doesn't have to be exact. It's a guideline. It just kind of helps you to make some decisions. This figure is kind of right along this 1/3 line. The castle is kind of filling up most of these 2/3 here. The cliff fills up most of this third here, goes a little beyond. There's some proportional stuff I'm going to talk about later on. Some of my personal pet theories about what makes a good proportion. We'll get into that later. But we can see this proportion, this composition is kind of dynamic. It's not like split into even halves or anything. There's not a lot of overtly symmetrical or balanced things, although it is hopefully balanced in a dynamic sense. I talked last time about the principle of the steelyard, where we've got a crane, right? And the crane might have an arm that extends out far to lift, beams or whatever, and then it might have this heavy weight on this side. And it's much closer, but the weight is much heavier than this weight here. But since this is far, it balances. We probably all intuitively understand how that works. The further away from the fulcrum, from the pivot point, a load is, the heavier it seems to be. And this works compositionally as well. I talked about this last time. So despite the fact that this castle is much smaller, not much smaller, but it's a fair bit smaller than this mass over here. But because it's more offset, it's closer to the edge of the frame, further away from the middle, it carries a little more compositional weight. All right, let's go ahead and do another one. Let's say this time, let's fill the frame really, really big with this figure. And then we've got there's the the little bit of the cliff that they're standing on, poking up. And then way back here, we can have a small little castle in the distance. Maybe this could all be kind of like misty, marshy land, and there's this castle. And again, this castle is somewhere near that 1/3 point. Geez, once again, I forgot to hit start on my timer. Trying to keep these below 15 minutes. Fortunately, I guess on my recording software I've got a timer, so it's not going to alert me, but I can keep an eye on it. We're about 6 minutes right now. Okay, so again, we've got this figure filling up a large part of this side of the frame, but it's not like right in the middle, right? Like that would be kind of weird. We usually, not always, but usually want to avoid framing things like right in the middle of the composition, unless, okay, I'll do this next. No, I'll go ahead right now. Okay, sometimes you want symmetry. Let's say we want to have this character's head. Okay, we'll kind of fill them in there, and we could have the cliff here, and then maybe the castle is right here, straight above their head. This is a very, I don't know about that castle. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to get hung up on the shape. You guys know what I'm talking about. So this is very symmetrical. We've got the character right in the middle. We've got the castle right in the middle above them. It's very like straight up the middle. And this is a very specific kind of composition. You might, I don't know, this might, suggest something like that this character is very, in all of these, they're related to the castle. They seem to be looking at it. But in this one, the castle is almost crowning the character. It's almost like he's wearing, or like they're wearing this castle as a crown, which could be a symbolic thing. This could be a story about a person who wants to become the king or the queen or whatever, the ruler, and the castle becomes like a crown for them in this composition. And you can use composition like that. Composition can be just meat and potatoes, like we want to have a pleasing visual arrangement to look at that leads our eye so that we see the things that we need the viewer to see. So the viewer sees what we need them to see in the kind of sequence that we need them to see it. But sometimes you can use it in a symbolic kind of way, where it implies something almost like poetically. So this would be an example of this. But typically, I would say, for the most part, you want to avoid very symmetrical compositions unless you have a good reason for it. Don't just do it by default, because it is very still. It's very, almost lifeless. But sometimes, this is not the castle thing, but like, I always think of a throne room when I think of symmetrical compositions. We've got that like kind of carpet leading up. We've got the stairs. We've got the throne, right, with the king or whatever on the throne. We've got these columns probably on the sides, everything leading to it. And this is symmetrical, and it has a sense of like power, especially if we put the king like up high, right, like lording over this room. So that can be, it's not lifeless. It's actually feels very powerful. But again, it's a very specific kind of feeling that we wouldn't want necessarily in every picture. Okay, so let's go back to this idea of the castle and the figure. All of these so far, we've had the figure and the cliff in the foreground. So let's now let's do the castle. We'll keep the castle about a third on this side, okay? And then we can have a cliff way over here and a little figure up on the cliff here. This is pretty well balanced. we've got, this is a similar amount of space being filled up. In fact, I kind of don't like it because it's too well balanced. So what I might want to do then is maybe bring the castle over so it fills more of the space. Now it's closer to 2/3. And I said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. Personally, I feel, sometimes you'll see the golden ratio thing. You might have seen this kind of a thing where it's like this snail spiral, and they'll lay it over a Renaissance painting or something, and say this is the golden ratio. They break it up into like these blocks, and you say that the composition spirals along this sort of thing, and it divides it into these mathematically perfect ratios that the Greeks developed or whatever. And I think that might be a little too, I don't know. I think that goes a little too far, a little overthinking it sometimes. But I do think that there is a ratio that just works really well. I think we as people respond to it well. That is somewhere between 2/3, or 1/3 to 2/3, a 1-to-3 ratio, and a 2-to-5 ratio. So it's actually, if we were to split this into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's somewhere around right here, if that makes sense. So just dividing these into two separate spaces. And there's probably a mathematical name for this ratio or whatever, but like I tend to like to divide things like this. So I think this cliff is probably somewhere around that ratio. I think this top area versus this bottom area is probably somewhere around that ratio. That's actually probably closer to 1/3. But it doesn't have to be exact, This is not an exact science. Anyway, let me just go ahead and fill in some of this castle thing. So now we've got this castle way in the foreground. All right, let's try another. Well, before I move on, let me just, now that this castle, okay, I don't really like how this is straight across right here. So maybe I would bring this down here. So now we've got more variety. This is up high. This kind of comes down low, but then this fills this whole space. And notice always we're just, we're playing with the two-dimensional space. We obviously when we're drawing a picture, painting a picture, or whatever, we want to create a sense of three-dimensional space. We want to have a sense of perspective, like everything exists in the round. But in composition, we're very much concerned with just dividing this space up in a two-dimensional way. There's a tension kind of and a synergy between the three-dimensional space we're creating an illusion of and the two-dimensional space of the picture plane that we are actually working with. Obviously, when we're drawing on a sheet of paper, on a canvas, on a screen, it's always just a flat two-dimensional thing, but it creates the illusion of 3 dimensions. Okay, running out of time here. We're up to 13 and a half minutes. I'll do 1 or 2 more. Okay, here's another one. We'll do a very tall castle. This one's like a weird, like, fantasy crystal, I don't know. And then we could have maybe a small rise here with a little figure. And actually, this, I feel like the castle kind of dominates too much. So what I would probably want to do, it really overwhelms this figure and stuff. So what I would probably do here is actually move it further to the side. And now I feel like it's starting to work. Well, we're at about 14 and a half minutes. Say hi to Salty, everybody. We're at about 14 and a half minutes, so I'll be back. I'll be back next time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe. I'm going to keep doing these. I'm just going to knock them out. And hopefully we'll get through a lot of good stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. See you next time.